Out when the leading edge hit Granite Tour, and it's not that far up.
No, Monday morning the fish were still coming over the dam.
Absolutely.
Or Monday afternoon, excuse me. Were they still dying, or is just residual effect from the fish? There was just, you know, they were already dead, and it took a while just to get to that point.
The toxicity is we measure toxicity in lethal concentrations to 50% of organisms, and that's the way we measure it. The reason we measure it that way is that there's a continuum. You take one species of fish, and of course across species of fish it changes even more. Take one species of fish, the amount that will kill 10% of the fish will have absolutely no effect on 70% of the fish. But mortality is the same way. They don't all die. It's not like they all die instantly. They die over time. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it may take 6 or 8 or 10 hours for some individuals of the same species to die where other individuals will die instantly. So there is a gradation in mortality, but there's also, that river was coming up like crazy. It was flushing fish out of areas that they'd already stacked up in. Brush piles were going underwater that had gathered fish. There was a continuum of rotting corpses.
Because they had like a massive amount of rainfall.
It was an incredible rain.
No,
and I followed up on I believe three reports from citizens that were sure they had an answer on what killed the fish. And I followed up on every call that I got, and none of them panned out. But we did follow up on those, and we did look for. You don't kill that many fish with a casual spill up in a watershed somewhere without burning vegetation or probably leaving some kind of a footprint. And we didn't find any of those. There were no smoking guns, other than the one smoking thing up there.
What kind of footprint would you get, though, from oxygen deprivation other than the lungs hanging out the mouth? Kind of like decompressing when you come up from diving.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is something, there has to be a source that sucked the oxygen out of the water, and we went looking for those sources. Most times when I see a kill, if I'm investigating a kill where we have a farm accident or a manure spill or a waste disposal facility fails, it's obvious. You drive up to the spot, there's burned vegetation. When I say burned, I mean brown,
sure.
Like, you know.
You said that those fish were pretty much decomposed within 24 hours?
I said that my first air bladder
okay.
was in less than 24 hours. Water temperatures were very high, flows were very fast, the river was very energetic, and fish were getting...
Because if the fish
sure.
kill would have stopped at Provincetown, how come there was tens of thousands of fish in the Quad Cities also floating?
As I tried to say before, the fish dies, the gas fills the body cavity, they float to the surface, and they stay on the surface until there's turbulence or until they completely eject the air bladder and they lose that gas, or the belly explodes and they lose that gas.
And that's probably why, Dan, that the fish didn't start coming up the Granite Tour was the first sign you seen them, even if they came from farther up above. By the time they decompose, the gases build up, and they become buoyant. They could have died where the kish dumps into the rock. Started there.
No.
And then by the time they got to Granite Tour,
I'm not buying that. I'm sorry, I've been on a lot of these fish kills, and
you just said a little bit ago on an ethanol spill, what ethanol does, it gets in and attacks the oxygen and depletes it.
But it would take a while for that
My
oxygen
God.
content to get low.
Railroad cars of it that leaked into that creek that went into the kish.
I don't know what we're arguing about. I'm just saying I've sampled the Kishwaukee and I've sampled the Rock River up there, and there's a beautiful fish population up there.
Even now?
Huh?
Even now?
Oh, yes, very much so. Kishwaukee's got outstanding fish population today.
Did you sample up by Whirlpool Rock and all that area?
I sampled every pool. I sampled the Grand Tour area. I sampled between the dams, between Dixon and Sterling Dam, between the two dams at Sterling and below the Sterling
And your
Dam.
assessments were?
That every species of fish that was present before the kill is still present at much lower numbers.
How do you assess the value of the fish, Dan?
There's a value is set by the American Fisheries Society. It's updated every few years. For small fish, it's just a 2-inch minnow may be worth 17 cents. Big flathead catfish are worth $1.19 a pound, or whatever that number is.
Well,
You take that 100-yard count and expand it out.
When I wrote this down, I was thinking, if there were 72,000 fish conservatively killed, 36,000, half of them were game fish, so 36,000 were game fish, right? I think, is that what we're figuring?
I said 36,000 were catfish.
I thought half of them were, 72,000, half of them, the paper said half of them were game fish, walleye, bass, and catfish. Okay, so we break down the catfish, they average 15 pounds a piece for the flatheads. If you go to the store right now, they're $3 a pound for fillets. That comes to $548,000. I'm not finished yet. I'm not finished yet.
Where's my MasterCard?
Then we got walleyes. The cheapest I went was $4 a pound. That comes to $192,000. Then we have the smallmouth bass. I called the conservation department. You weren't there that day, Dan. How much would it cost if I caught a smallmouth bass in a restricted area and kept him? What would my fine be? She told me, wait a minute, whoa. She said it'd be $75 to $150. So I'm thinking, well, give it a balance of $100 a fish. So if you kill that many fish, you know what it cost you? It cost you $1,700,000.
Are you trying to tell me my method sucks?
I've known you a long time, man. I know your predecessor before you, Colin, and I knew all the people before you, Don.
We care.
Well,
Yes,
you know,
sir.
here again, this makes perfect sense to me. These numbers, I mean, yes, we're gonna try to replace them based on rough fish prices or minnow prices, but we didn't lose minnows. We didn't lose small fish.
I didn't say that I did that. What are you thinking? I told you that I took the values by the species. I gave you an example of a minnow, and you're saying that's all I charged for?
You know,
I'm doing the best I can, though. I'm going by the method that I've got. If you don't like the method, we've got to find a new one.
that's what I'm asking for.
The trouble
How
is,
do
it's-
we find the new method, and who do I have to go to? Who do I have to go to get it changed? Because let me tell you, I walk out of here, I'm driving 20 miles north of Springfield, and tomorrow morning, or not tomorrow morning, Monday morning, bright and early.
Tuesday,
I
Monday's
could
a
be-
holiday.
Oh, Monday's a holiday. Hell, I'd have been standing there by myself picking my nose. Tuesday morning, I could be standing at that DNR building, beating on somebody's door saying, why isn't this fixed?
Well, you guys are meeting with the director in a few days.
I know.
You'll have your opportunity there.
Believe me. That's why I'm here.
I hope you'll say something kind about it.
I'm going to say all kinds of things. No, and I will say something kind to you, because let me tell you, it is very, and everybody in this room needs to know it. Like I say, I'm from 3 hours south of here. It's very unusual that you get the local guy willing to come deal with the local constituency. And I will say one thing, the DNR, since Mark has taken over, has really come around to listening to the people again.
I take
And we
personal
appreciate
offense to that.
Oh, well, okay.
I have worked for this agency for 30 years, and I